Hello, my name is Sylvester Henderson. I am the CEO and president of Professor for Life Incorporated, and I am so honored to interview a past colleague of mine who is like my sister from Los Medanos College, Professor Erma Smith. Welcome, Professor Erma Smith.
Thank you, Sylvester.
And so
It's a pleasure to be here.
And Professor Smith, can you introduce yourself to our digital media academic world? Please describe your education and training. Where did you go to college? Where did you go to high school? What did you major in college, and all those wonderful things?
Okay. I've been thinking about this, and I was talking to my grandson, and he is 62 years older than I am. So when I was in high school, when I was in elementary school, actually, my father made a decision to get his family out of the South. He did not want to be a sharecropper, he said, behind a mule the rest of his life. That triggered an unbelievable set of opportunities for me as part of the internal migration. We were in the project. I ended up living in Seaside, California, which is right outside of Monterey, California. At that time, I could go to the community college in California, tuition free. My sister had set up a scholarship. She was a beautician. I was the first recipient. All I had to do was buy my books. God blessed me to have money to buy books. Be in California. I spent a year at a private Christian school in Forest Grove, Oregon on a scholarship. That didn't work out. I was fortunate that Lyndon Johnson had just started the student loan, student financial aid. Ended up graduating from San Jose State, worked for the phone company a few years. Then I saw this little sign in the dirt that said, Future Home, Contra Costa Community College. And I said to my husband, I'm going to work there. That little sign was the future site of Los Medanos College, where I was so blessed to meet Sylvester. And it started an unbelievable professional career that when I was a little girl living in the project in Memphis, Tennessee, that I could not have even imagined except for my father's dream to get us out of the South. Ultimately, I ended up at Los Medanos College. I was a paraprofessional. I didn't have a bachelor's, worked full-time, went to school part-time, got a master's degree, ended up counseling, ended up teaching general psychology. I was also the first African-American female president of the Academic Senate. I taught general psych. I loved my time, and I loved meeting Sylvester. As a matter of fact, Sylvester, I was on his interview committee, and it's one of my most favorite memories of the college.
Wow, thank you. Now, Professor Erma, can you tell us what was your major, what was your bachelor's degree, what was your discipline, and what was your discipline for your master's degree?
The bachelor's degree, interestingly enough, was social science. I fell in love with my first grade teacher. I thought I was going to teach elementary school, which didn't work out. And for the master's degree, I had already, it was a major in psychology. I'm trying to remember, I'm old now. Major in psychology with a minor in sociology.
Wow, okay.
Because I thought I was going to do social psychology, but I didn't know if it was real or not. So I did sociology and psychology because I love people.
Okay. Well, I can see that because, a lot of times folks get kind of confused in terms of really the value and the definition of social science, which really deals with the study of human society and social relationships.
Exactly.
And that's one of the ways in which we developed a great collegiate friendship from our social but professional relationships as well. So I'm so grateful. Professor Erma, can you share with our digital world, identify and name and describe some of the courses that you taught at Los Medanos College?
Wow. Okay. Let me go in reverse because my brain is working that way, and that's the clearest memory right now. So the course that I taught just prior to retirement was general psychology, which I thoroughly enjoyed. brain-based psychology, because it was a required prerequisite for our registered nursing program. And the students and we just love that. I taught sociology, introduction to sociology at one point. I taught career classes. I taught, counseling classes. And as well as actually worked as a full-time counselor there at the campus.
Wow. When you hear students talk about your wonderful career and your trajectory in terms of all that you've done at Los Medanos College and for education, the institution of academia, you were very well loved and very well respected. During your time at Los Medanos, you had a chance to journey to become not only a tenured professor, but a wonderful campus leader. And you were the Academic Senate president. Please discuss your work as the Academic Senate president and describe to our digital world what that involved. That's such a prestigious title. Tell us all about that wonderful position.
It was an absolute wonderful, miraculous. I'll never forget that experience. One of the things that I discovered is that I'm more of a mediator, negotiator, and less of a politician. And I had to learn that sometimes those three things are not compatible. So during my time, I got a wonderful opportunity as president of the Academic Senate to actually see the institution of education at multiple levels. At the state level, we would go to Sacramento. I visited many of the 100+ community colleges in California, which is the largest system of community colleges in the world. I had an opportunity to interact with administrators, multiple levels, college presidents, and what was really good for me, I often think about the statement, we need to see ourselves. And I had students, African Americans, females, Asian American, females. Gender was important that said to me, I want to be like you when I grow up, Professor Smith. And I'm about to get teary-eyed because for me, that was the essence of why I became an educator. I wanted to make a difference in the lives because I had such wonderful, unbeknownst mentors there by example that showed me a professional. If your HEART is not in it, then it becomes HARD.
Absolutely. Can you discuss some of the challenges that you faced as the Senate president and still kind of elaborate what is the Academic Senate? What is the purpose of the Academic Senate within institutions nationwide?
Well, it's interesting that you asked that question, particularly given the current political environment that our country is finding itself in, because it's a Senate as I remember, was not unlike the Senate of the United States government. They actually were influential in policy-making decisions. They were often in, the ear of the president, the vice president. The Senate also approved the curriculum. The Senate was made up of faculties. These are faculty members that have a crucial role to play in the overall, I want to say the overall exemplary function of higher education.
Very much so. One of the things that I was reading about this was that in many colleges and universities, the Senate is the supreme authority around professional matters for the college and curricular matters for the college. And that presidents and leaders in the college cannot pretty much get anything approved that deals with faculty and instruction. And the college is primarily all faculty and instruction, in addition to the student support side of the house, which support instruction without the Senate. So the Senate president is, in many respects, equal to that of the college president, but in a different vein. but they have the same level of responsibility, but for a shorter term. How long did you serve as the Senate president, if I may ask?
I forget what the term was. I don't know if it was 2 years or 3 years. But one of the things that I distinctly remembered, that was my introduction to politics. Suddenly, suddenly, this little kid from the projects of Memphis, Tennessee, is sitting across from the college president. And there were times when the superintendent of the district, the chancellor, was also present if the issues were. I remember one particular issue that we were looking at. It was and now my brain just went blank, but that's okay. It's coming to me because it had to do with, well, it actually had to do with how we were looking at setting up the interview committees when we were hiring faculty. And it was one of those issues where diversity was extremely important. And thanks to our founding president, Jack Carhart, who was totally committed to diversity. And those were some very interesting conversations because suddenly you've got this little Black woman sitting with the college president, who at that time was Asian, and our and the chancellor who was your white European. So there we are, the epitome of diversity, sitting in this room saying, how can we serve this campus, these students, this community? And I will never forget feeling like if only all politics could be this collaborative. But wow. Of course, I'm a dreamer.
That's great. That is a great dream. You know what? What were some of the biggest challenges you faced as a professor at Los Medanos College? Tell us some of your greatest triumphs and challenges.
Let me start with remember I started out at LMC as a classified employee. And what that means is that I had a bachelor's degree and I went to school, as I mentioned, part-time to get the master's. Starting out as a classified employee is kind of like the clerical support people in corporate America. I started the first career center. I did study things, but I didn't know anything about higher education except as a student. And as a classified employee, I remember Jack Carhart and Charlie Collins, who was the dean, had hired 8 of us that only had bachelor's degree. It was a absolute wonderful notion. They wanted to train their own future faculty members. And to their credit, all 7 of the 8 ended up being full-time tenured faculty at LMC. I doubt that I would have ever had the opportunities that I had it not been for LMC, and an institution that was totally committed to growth of its faculty, its students, everybody, its classified staff. So I will be forever grateful for that opportunity. And as I got it to the Senate statewide, I had people say to me, how many colleges have you worked for? Because there's this freeway flyer where community college faculty will work at several colleges part-time just to try and earn a decent salary. I never did that. All of my work, all of it, absolute all of it, from the first time I even had an idea professionally what a community college was all at LMC. And I remember talking to faculty up and down the state of California who were just really surprised. But I owe that all to the absolute values and integrity of the administration, of those founding administrators. I remember one of the dean secretaries was pregnant. And when that baby was born, believe this, the staff, faculty, administration, janitors, clerical support, we gave her a baby shower. That's how much of a family we felt like we were.
LMC definitely was a family. As a faculty there for over 30 plus years, it was my second home. We argued, we agreed, we disagreed, we fought, we had politics, But at the end of the day, it was my family, and I say the same thing. I am living the dream life now, and it is all because of Los Medanos College, which is part of the Contra Costa Community College District. So I have no complaints. I mean, did they stress me out? Absolutely, but that's what family do,
That's right.
And
At
but
the
we're
end of the day,
so
they
very
love each other.
blessed. That's
Yes,
right.
yes, yes.
Professor Irma, how did you ensure that your courses were inclusive and accessible to all students, including underrepresented and non-traditional students?
That's a wonderful question. And I really, really like it because that's where one of the roles that I had at Los Medanos College, I was the second articulation officer. And that person was responsible for making sure that the courses, as they were written in the course outlines, transferred so that, as well as any transferable courses, had to meet certain standards. Now, because my course that I taught, the general psych course, I had an agreed upon, Senate approved course outline. And that, in my role as an articulation officer, I had worked at the state level with the articulation officers statewide. So diversity, it's an interesting thing. Diversity is a norm unless you unnorm it. And because there were students that were really, really, the registered nursing program had a wonderful reputation, the demands and the students that wanted to be, I needed to make sure that in my commitment to education, my commitment to all students, students of color, gender students, trans students, disabled students, opportunity was available. And that's what I did. And I am so proud. One of my students, I remember, and I love telling this story, he came up to me after the lecture and he says, I want to talk like you and be like you when I get to be grown. I said, no, you're going to talk like you and be like you when you get to be grown, because you have the drive and you have and you're going to make it. That young man went on, left LMC. And then the next time I heard him, because we lose track of our students sometimes. The next time I heard from him, he was working on his doctorate. And I said, oh, congratulations. And I started calling him my doctor in the making. And he went on to complete his doctorate, works in Contra Costa County. I think he's director of a mental health program that uses the arts. And one of my students started out, I tell people that's why I was in New Orleans for her mother's 90th birthday, was because she went from student to family. She worked for me, called one day, couldn't come to work, was having crisis. I was living in the apartment complex next door with my daughter. And you know how little people are. We had an empty bedroom. So I told her, come stay with us. She went on, did her LMC, transferred to San Francisco State, got her master's in one of the toughest counseling programs in the state, which is a 2-year counseling program at San Francisco State, because most of them are a year. Jenny just retired from the Department of Rehabilitation at the state level, did some part-time work. So I'm just, it's the stories of individual success and that I'm the most proud of, because having been allowed to just play a tiny part in that success is so satisfying.
Wow. What a wonderful, loving character that you have always demonstrated. So I appreciate you taking the time to allow our digital audience to hear your journey and your perspective. Thank you. In what ways did you collaborate with other campus leaders and classified professionals to create a holistic student experience?
That's really interesting, because one of the advantages that I had, because I was hired as classified before I became a tenured professor, I was very comfortable at those levels. So when we would when I would go to other colleges, particularly in the district, Contra Costa or DVC, I could stop in and pop in and say, hey, how y'all doing? And we could chit chat. I never felt that class kind of division between classified and faculty or administration. I was blessed because of my father and my mom to just kind of float between. And that's not to say that, and I enjoyed that. I enjoyed recognizing my dad was a minister, my mom was a homemaker, but they were sharecroppers from Mississippi. And I have this wonderful shirt that says, proud daughter of Mississippi sharecroppers. What they experienced and what they taught me is people are people. So when I would go and visit other campuses, I could comfortably interact with college professors at different colleges, as well as classified employees, because at the end of the day, we all had a boss and we needed a paycheck.
That's right. So in reality, you were professionally holistic in your approach, and
Thank you.
not
You.
academically an elite.
No. Oh no.
No.
Oh no.
You looked at life in a more holistic, equalized manner, which brings me to my next question. Did you utilize technology or innovation within the School of Social Science and Behavioral Sciences?
As you know, my grandson is my tech support.
Okay.
In DC. I am one of those people that, because I came up during an era where the technology hadn't been born yet. And as I grew professionally, I always had tech support. So when I was doing articulation and course outlines, the LMC hired an assistant, and that was my tech person. Okay. Then when I got in trouble with my tech, I could call down to the tech department on campus, and they would say, oh, okay, Miss Erma, we're on our way. When I moved to DC and living with my daughter said to me, Mom, we're not your tech support. The loving support that I had from tech, she said, Mama, I said, what? And then I thought about it. They loved you into ignorance. So to answer your question, I'm not a techie, as you know, but it's been a wonderful, wonderful experience for me because there's so many people that are willing to help. My grandson just gets, and we just laugh. He was 18 months old when I got here. He's now 16 years old. And when I called him my tech support, he really is. And like yourself, when we were trying to log onto the Zoom meeting, you were just so patient and kind. And finally, I got it. But, I can remember when distance learning, I was asked by the administration, this is way before the level of technology we have now. Would I be interested in developing my course into a distant learning course? I said no. And the reason is that I'm such a people person. I said, I need to breathe the same air that they breathe, because nonverbal communication for me is powerful. And I need to see their faces, and I need to be in the room with them.
That is a big issue right now, my dear friend, Professor Erma. Face-to-face instruction versus digital instruction. Which one is more valued? I think the system of higher education is still trying to get it together, because I would say it's fortunate, but it's also unfortunate. Right. Fortunately, in a fortunate manner, it is that distant learning can reach a larger mass.
Exactly.
But in an unfortunate manner, sometimes you wonder the level of instructional competency from the students and the instructor, especially when courses are asynchronous, where you don't see the students at all. You sometimes wonder whether the students are really doing the work or someone else is doing it, for the students. So it becomes very challenging. But I think as we live in a society of technology, I think the colleges and universities are going to be challenged for years and years to come in terms of the authentic learning process, in terms of how they address some of these issues. I have just 2 more questions to ask you.
Thank you.
Please share your community work that you've accomplished for the improvement of the protected classes with respect to our current equity versus equality movement?
Wow. That is a question.
Yeah.
Because for me, and I can honestly say, and I truly feel this way, is that my entire professional career focused on inclusivity. And so when there were students that were disabled students, and whatever accommodations the disabled students office would ask me to facilitate their learning, I did that. I at one time chaired I was part of the 3 faculty members that put on the first Black Women Conference at Los Medanos College. In the community, I served elementary school. I was on their advisory board. It's just, I just feel really, really fortunate and blessed to look at the world around me and say, the world that I want to see, the world that I want to see is the world that I have to be. And so my involvement in many, many community outreach programs, activities at the campus have all been centered around the fact that the world is only as good as the individual.
That's right. What a profound statement. The world that I want to see is the world I want to be. That is wonderful. Professor Erma Smith, can you please share any other final thoughts and ideas you would like to communicate to our audience as you inspire thousands of current academics and future academics?
It's what I truly do believe. The slogan when I was the coordinator for the students that wanted to be teachers, and the slogan was, teaching is HEART. And if your HEART is not there and you make it HARD, you should choose another profession. To me, there is no more lasting activities that one can make where you have so many opportunities to make a positive impact in a young person's life than as an educator. And I tell people, I fell in love with my first grade teacher in a segregated classroom in Memphis, Tennessee, tall Black woman, and she was absolutely regal. And for that 6-year-old kid, I wanted to be that woman. And that's it. Your heart have to be in it.
You became not only that professional woman, but I know you have been a successful mother and grandmother, and that you've made great impact and left a lasting legacy at Los Medanos College.
Wow.
But most importantly, to me, you made a lasting legacy in my heart. Thank you so much for taking the time to appear on my podcast. As the CEO of Professor for Life Incorporated, I want to thank you for your time, and I love you dearly, and I wish nothing but Godspeed continually in your life and all that you are continuing to do as you inspire not only your family but others. Have a wonderful day, and God bless you.
Thank you, my brother.
Thank you. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.